Hello there. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening. Nope, never mind. Let's try that again because today only on Extra Sports 1300, but you can also, of course, listen on the Extra Sports 1300 app. Air Force men's basketball in the Mountain West tournament going on over on KVOR as we speak. So there's that. So appreciate you listening nonetheless, whether it's on Extra Sports 1300, extrasports1300.com, or the Extra Sports 1300 app, which is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I would love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Now, I am back. If you're watching the stream, I am back in Colorado Springs. Arrived not that long ago from Las Vegas. And I would be remiss if I did not start there and what I was able to witness over the last few days. Now, last night did not go the way that anybody was hoping or planning for it to. But we've seen it enough in sports. When a team goes on a bit of a heater, and it's a heater that is maybe defying expectation, as Air Force was able to do, these kind of magical runs do tend to end in a really bad way. But I thought that maybe would happen in the NCAA tournament, right? Air Force, getting in as the conference champion in the Mountain West and playing UConn or something like that. And that may be the time where the run comes to an end, and it may look, it may be a little bit rough. But that's what last night was. And fair play to Colorado State. Defensively, they were superb. Took an Air Force team that had been shooting incredibly well over 3 days out there in Vegas, and they put the clamps on them. Air Force shooting 27% from the field in that game. That's not going to win you any game at any point in the season. And so Colorado State, they are worthy champions of the Mountain West. I don't like that they're the champions of the Mountain West. Didn't want them to be champions of the Mountain West, but they earned it because defensively that was a superb effort by Colorado State. And we'll see what they end up doing once the NCAA tournament goes around. Or comes around, I should say. I don't know that. In fact, not even I don't know. I know that as disappointing as last night's result was, and it's a gut punch, and being around that team last night, they were, as you might imagine, quite broken up about it. And for good reason. You have this unbelievable 3 days, and you need one more win to realize what has to be a dream of yours if you're playing college basketball. How could it not be going to the NCAA tournament? And to have that yanked away from you at the last second, or on the last day, I should say, on the doorstep of getting to the tournament, to have that ripped away from you, it's got to be incredibly painful to deal with. And a postseason invite to the WNIT or whatever might be is going to be a small consolation prize. It's not going to, fill that void that these players are feeling because they did not, in their minds, finish the job. And I think some of them might feel like they failed in some way. But you and I know this. They didn't fail. What happened over the last 4 days was spectacular and amazing and awesome. And that's what is going to be remembered. Yeah, if they would have made the NCAA tournament, the story would have been even bigger. But the lasting memory, the lasting impact, it's not going to matter that they fell short in the Mount West title game. It's really not where this team has been. Okay, if CSU loses that game last night, then yeah, maybe you could look at it as a negative in recruiting. Maybe it would be, not the most celebrated women's basketball team in Colorado State University history. But for Air Force, they will be. This team is going to, and I said it last night on the broadcast, this team is going to be remembered along with any one of the most beloved, revered teams that have played at Air Force, regardless of sport. You think Frank Serratori's been to multiple NCAA tournaments, some of those teams, some of the great teams that Fisher DeBerry had or Troy Calhoun had. Like, this team is going to be remembered in the same vein. What they did was remarkable. And not to make it all about the next thing, but this is going to be beneficial, to say the least, for Air Force women's basketball. I mean, think about let's be honest, the recruiting pitch is not an easy one for any of these coaches. Troy Calhoun or Frank Serratori or Stacey McIntyre. It's not an easy pitch. Right? If the athlete that they're recruiting, or the student athlete, potential cadet athlete that they're recruiting, puts sports at the top of their list. It's not easy. But Stacey McIntyre and her staff have obviously been able to do pretty well. They brought in Milani Perry, who became the school's all-time leading scorer and was named tournament MVP last night. They brought in Emily Adams, who was also named to the all-tournament team. And the impact players go beyond just those two. Jada McNabb being named Defensive Player of the Year. Like, clearly they've done well in recruiting. And now they can go to a young woman that's getting ready to make her college decision and say, hey, we could set you up for your next career, right? And go down all the benefits of being a graduate of the Air Force Academy and the mission of the school and how much better your life will be moving forward having gone to the school. They can run all that stuff down, and you can now tell that young woman, and you can win some basketball games. We just went to the Mount West title game. And I'm not a recruiter, but the next sentence out of my mouth would be, and with you, we could win that game. I mean, this is going to be massive for Air Force women's basketball moving forward in so many different ways. But what this team showed is that winning and being at Air Force, they aren't mutually exclusive. And a lot of the players, yes, they'll be losing Milani Perry. They'll be losing Emily Adams, who are their two best players in the tournament. But Alexis Cortez, Keely O'Halloran, Jada McNabb, they're taking center stage now. It's going to be their team. And you have Brett Clay, who was an all-freshman team performer this year. Like, they're going to be good next year. And now you go out on the recruiting trail and you say, hey, we want to add you to the mix, and we think with you, we can go over the top. We think we can make an NCAA tournament. And how could you not have that belief after what just transpired over the last 4 days? This is absolutely a watershed moment. The last huge watershed moment was when the school was able to hire Chris Gobrecht. Right? And she took a team that won one game and got them to not just, hey, we're in all these games in the Mount West. Like, they were winning Mount West games. They were finishing with 3-4 teams beneath them in the standings. They were winning a game in the Mount West tournament. And that has to be acknowledged, and Stacey McIntyre will be the first person to acknowledge that. It starts with Chris. It starts with Chris Gobrecht. She transformed this program. But what the hope was when Coach G called it a career was that her top assistant would be able to take over and further this thing, take it into the next era, if you will. And Stacey McIntyre has. And I don't think losing last night diminishes that at all. Winning last night would have just added to it, but the impact of this run is going to be felt in that program for years to come. And I hope that the benefits, the windfall, if you will, that comes along with this in a number of different ways. I hope it continues. I was told, and I don't know if you were out there last night, but a lot of the people who showed up for the Frank Serratori radio show at Colorado's Rib and Chop House were also there to watch Air Force women's basketball. And the ones that just showed up for Frank's show said, oh, that's going on. I'm going to stick around. I hope that continues too. I hope that this program gets the support that they deserve because of this. And it's not just a really fun story for a few days and then it's, back to the way it was. I hope a few more people show up to Clune Arena next year. But just a remarkable run that, as the days go by, will not be sullied or diminished one bit because they lost last night. But, I feel for the players, certainly. I really feel for Milani Perry and Emily Adams. That's one of it may have been their last game. Again, this postseason stuff is all very nebulous. But if that was their last game, that's who I really feel for. Right? Because they wanted another game. And they wanted to go out winning a Mount West title and bringing that to the academy. But their legacies are intact. Their legacies at the Air Force Academy, especially Milani Perry's, she's at the top of the all-time scoring list. But she and Emily had a huge part to play in what we saw over the last 4 days. Or what I saw, what you heard, hopefully, over the last few days. So I feel for them because they can't move on with the rest of this group and see what happens next year and the year after. But there are a lot of players that were on the court last night that will be back, that will be fueled by watching Colorado State celebrate. Next year is going to be really fun, and I hope that the impact of this is felt on the recruiting trail to Air Force's benefit. I hope that the turnstiles, there aren't turnstiles, I think, at Clune Arena, but you get what I'm saying. I hope that there's a positive impact on that, because and it's not uncommon at the Air Force Academy. Regardless of the team, football, hockey, men's basketball, women's basketball, gymnastics, baseball, these are just the best young men and women you will ever meet. And I hope you got a chance to meet some of these young women over the course of the season. But these are just, they're easy to root for. They are. They're very easy to root for. And I hope that people come out and root for these players moving forward at the Air Force Academy. But a remarkable few days. Remarkable. And just feel lucky that I got to be a part of it in the way I was. And hopefully you hopped on the bandwagon, or if you are already an Air Force women's basketball fan, I hope you enjoyed that last few days. I know I did. And what happened last night does not take anything away. It didn't make last night particularly fun, but it was awesome. Awesome group of and an amazing coaching staff. And I already can't wait for next season. 719-24-7. 1313, just getting going on this edition of the show. Let me throw out a question that you can ponder during the break, because I want your answer to this. How will we remember the Max Crosby era in Baltimore? What's going to be that memory that's going to be seared into your brain for years to come? Let's talk about that mess next on Extra Sports 1300. What a wild scene when it comes to what's going on with Baltimore and the Raiders. So I get done with the show yesterday, head to the Thomas and Mack Center, and the play-by-play broadcaster for CSU says, "Hey, you talk about the Max Crosby thing on your show." I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, I've been getting ready and I just got here." "Oh, well, he's not going to Baltimore anymore." And then obviously I found out the details. And then this morning I wake up and the Ravens have Trey Hendrickson now on their team. I think, did we double check this? All the deals become official about 90 minutes ago. Like, what a wild 24 hours. And this was already the biggest move made in free agency. It wasn't free agency. It was a trade initially. This is the biggest story. But here's the thing. I think it smells fishy too. I think that Baltimore got cold feet. I think it is a bad look. Like, I agree with all of these things people are saying about the Baltimore Ravens. But here's the thing. I was having this conversation with somebody earlier. Okay, let's say, for instance, because I think what people are getting to is now this is going to hurt Baltimore moving forward. The way they have gone about all of this is going to hurt Baltimore in the future. Teams aren't going to want to deal with them. Players aren't going to want to deal with them. Here's the analogy I would provide. So there's a particular coffee chain that is quite prevalent. Okay? Last time I went to this place, I decided that I was never going to go back. I don't know why they have to. I understand that coffee's hot. This is not like coffee is hot. Does it have to be that hot? Does it have to be molten lava? Can I not drink it within the hour that I buy it? And the cup was leaky and all this kind of stuff. And I swore to myself, never go back. This place is trash. I'll tell you what, if I need coffee and I am around a location of this very popular coffee chain, I am going to pull into the drive-thru and get coffee because I need coffee. If the Baltimore Ravens, let's take it each piece of this. If a team wants something from the Baltimore Ravens, they're not going to call them now. They're going to ice them out because they backed out on the trade with the Raiders. In fact, people are unearthing another situation, I think, with Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Baltimore Ravens in Philadelphia, with the trade from the past. If you want something that Baltimore has, you're going to trade with them. If they are willing to give you 2 first-round picks for your pass rusher, you, even with this, are going to do the deal. If you, and conversely, if you're an NFL player, if you don't like the fact that they backed out of the Max Crosby trade only to turn around and sign Trey Hendrickson, and you say, well, I'm never going to Baltimore. Sure about that? Let's say Baltimore offers you the most money or the most guarantees, or heck, they might be the only team that wants to give you gainful employment. You're not going to go there. What has happened with the Baltimore Ravens stinks. It stinks to high heaven. And I 100% believe they got cold feet on this, and they had Trey Hendrickson, I don't know, like mulling, or they had him in their back pocket, and they decided, why are we doing this when we could do this? That's absolutely what I believe happened with the Baltimore Ravens. Because we knew Max Crosby was going to fail his physical. He's recovering from an injury. We knew that. This thing stinks. And I think Baltimore backed out, and they used the physical as an excuse. But you know what? There is zero downside for the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens made out like bandits. They get their picks back. I mean, it's like Kevin Costner in Draft Day. They got all their picks back, and they get a player who is comparable in Trey Hendrickson for cheaper than Max Crosby would be. And there is going to be no lasting impact. Ravens will still be able to conduct their NFL business for the foreseeable future with no interruption. Now, the Ravens might be called SOBs behind their back or to their face, but you're still going to do business with them. There are too few jobs in the NFL. There are too few teams in the NFL. You can't ice one team out. There is zero downside here for the Baltimore Ravens. What they did stinks, but they're better off for it. So what I said the other day about, the Ravens being one of the few teams that I was kind of buying into or buying stock in for this upcoming season, even before free agency started. And then I said, feel even better about them now that they've landed Max Crosby. I'll triple down and actually say that I'm more bullish on Baltimore going into this year because of this crap that they just pulled. This will work out just fine for the Baltimore Ravens. You don't have to like it, and I'm not saying I like it. I like this business, and I like Max Crosby, so him twisting in the wind like this and stuff, it's not great. And I know that there is zero sympathy for the Raiders franchise in the state that I currently reside in, but come on. It's Christmas. Look deep into your heart. I know it's not Christmas, but pretend it is. Look deep into your heart. You got to feel for the Raiders. Come on. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. Exactly the thing that I have been saying for a year that they should be doing. Longer than that, when they had Devontae Adams, I was saying that the Raiders should do a complete page one rewrite. Using him as the catalyst. Give Devontae Adams up and get your picks. Finally, the Raiders do the right thing. They do the sensible thing. They conduct good NFL business. And they get a haul in return for Max Crosby. And it all blows up in their face. Because the Ravens are a little slimy. Universe, it's not fair. Another reminder of that. I do feel for the Raiders. Because you should be rewarded for doing the right thing. The Raiders should get these draft picks, and they should turn them into cornerstone pieces of their franchise. That's, in an ideal world, what would happen. But in the real world, organizations that do business like the Baltimore Ravens just did over the last 24 hours, somehow they're the ones that end up benefiting. I think some people are calling them the dirty birds now. You don't have to like it, but in terms of how they conducted themselves, but you can't tell me that the Ravens are any worse off, and maybe they're better off having done this. 719-247-1313. And then you have what happened with Bam Adebayo last night. What a wild evening of sports. We continue the conversation next on Extra Sports 1300. Look, here's the thing. I will say Then I came to the Bam Adebayo stuff later last evening. Nick Arseniak from Air Force, he's the men's basketball SID, was sitting next to me last night at the Thomas and Mack Center and showed me that Bam Adebayo had scored 83 points. And I'm like, whoa. But I was in the middle of a game. I didn't think anything of it. I did ask who it was against, because isn't that the first question you want to know? And when he told me it was the Wizards, I was like, okay. I am not as surprised, as shocked as I would have been if, Bam did it against, I don't know, the Denver Nuggets or something like that. But then I got caught up after the game last night. And I went in because I did see a couple of tweets that were kind of trashing it. Okay. And it was mostly about the free throw stuff. 42 free throws. He scores 36 points off of those 42 free throw attempts. And I said, that's a lot, but I don't know if it's one of my crusades that I'm on. I just don't want to kill players as much as I used to about the free throws. Right. And I guess the SGA conversation has kind of brought that forth. There is a skill to it. There's a referee that could decide that it is in a gray area and opt not to call the foul. It's just something that is not at the top of my list. It's on there, but it's down the list. I don't love that he shot 42 free throws. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I wasn't going to let that be the be-all, end-all. Oh, he was being a little bit of a free throw merchant. The guy still scored 83 points. Okay, 36 is less than 83. He did it other ways. He didn't make an 83-point game from the free throw line. So my intent, as I dug deeper and watched the highlights and everything like that, I went into it legitimately trying to just say, you know what, this is not going to be one of those ones. One of those situations where I'm just going to hate it. And I'm going to hate on somebody's great accomplishment. And clearly it meant a ton to Bam Adebayo to be able to do that. And that his generation of players all idolize Kobe. So being in that conversation is huge. So I went into it saying, I'm not going to hate on it. If the free throw thing is the problem, then I'm not going to let it affect me. 83 points is a ton of points, and anybody else could go out tonight and try to shoot 83 free throws or get 42 free throws to try and get to 80 points. It's that opportunity exists for everybody. What Bam Adebayo did was remarkable. That's what I went into my deep dive into the night Bam Adebayo had. That was my mentality. I don't want to hate this. I just want to appreciate the fact that for the third time in NBA history, guys scored more than 80 points. But I could not stay there. Because in a time where how legitimacy of these NBA games are being called a little into question, what the Miami Heat did last night and what the Washington Wizards did last night, let's not forget about them. Okay, they are equal partners in this. They turned that game into a sham and a farce. If Bam Adebayo shoots 42 free throws during the normal course of the game, that's a lot. I don't love it, but you know what? I'm willing to move past it. Intentionally missing your own free throws, intentionally fouling in order to extend the game to allow Bam Adebayo to get over 80 points, that is a joke, and I hate it. That game was a farce last night. And it actually does the opposite of what Miami was trying to do. Miami was trying to get Bam Adebayo to have a night, a career night, a night that will go down in NBA history. Instead, it worked the other way. And now this is an 80-point game that no one's going to want to talk about. And that's a shame because it is an accomplishment. But when you're extending the game out, when you're up by more than 20 points, just to get that, like Bam Adebayo isn't the, this isn't a junior high, manager that's finally getting his shot to get in the game and all his teammates are trying to force feed him the ball and they're taking, timeouts and they're fouling and all this stuff just to try and get him a shot. Bam Adebayo is not a make-a-wish kid. He's one of the better players in the NBA. If he can't score 80 points playing a normal game, then it's just not meant to be. I hate what Miami and Washington came together to do last night. And it detracts from what should be a celebratory thing here with Bam Adebayo, that he was able to score 83 points. It is a joke, that basketball game. And at the worst time, read the freaking room. Load management, tanking. It wasn't that long ago that the FBI was raiding people in the NBA, looking for match fixing and giving inside information to sports bettors. And you're going to sit there and intentionally miss free throws and intentionally foul just so Bam Adebayo can have a little bit more time to get over 80. Shame on the Miami Heat and Washington Wizards for what they did yesterday. And it's getting to the point. There is no league in the world that is teetering on the edge of oblivion more than the NBA. The fact that the Nuggets are in title contention and they have the best player in the world and so many other good storylines with Jamal Murray, All-Star year and all that, they're the only thing holding this together. Everything else going on in the NBA right now outside of the Denver Nuggets and maybe a nice story here and there like the Charlotte Hornets, I am so out on this stupid league. Adam Silver has completely wrecked this league because he let the inmates run the asylum and he has no power. And anytime he tries to reach back for power, he overreaches and makes things worse. I apologize to Rob Manfred. I apologize to Gary Bettman because I thought for a time they were bad at their jobs. Adam Silver has completely lost control of this league. And it's a league that I grew up loving. And every night I tune in and I just get closer and closer to being just done with it. The Denver Nuggets are one Nikola Jokic retirement for me being out on the NBA altogether. If the Denver Nuggets turn back into the pumpkin that they were before Carmelo got there, I wouldn't be watching the NBA anymore. The Nuggets being good is the only thing that is keeping me tethered. Anytime I watch any other team, any other NBA game, I come away saying I wasted my time. And it's not just one thing, but it's load management. And I'm not saying tanking makes me enjoy watching games more, but those are teams, and I don't blame teams for tanking. I don't. But you also can't expect me to want to, are the Wiz on tonight? Let me watch them. And even with the tanking thing, as much of a proponent as I am of teams tanking, what the Utah Jazz did was a joke. So you have tanking and you have load management and you have everybody being free throw merchants and the constant complaining to the referees when these guys who get a ton of free throws don't get all the free throws. And the question looming over this league on whether, some games were fixed. We still haven't even gotten to the trial yet of Chauncey Billups and some of these other guys. Who knows what's coming out there? And the guy that's tasked with reining it in, let me refresh your memory, said before the season that you could literally just watch highlights. When people confronted Adam Silver to say that your product is suffering, what do you have to say about that? He said, well, just watch the highlights. We're a highlight league. Are you kidding me? And on a night that's supposed to be historic, and I guess it's still historic, bad history, good history, it's historic either way. But on a night that should be all positive, celebrating the accomplishment of Bam Adebayo, you watch it and you're like, no, we're actually closer to the NBA just going over the edge. And I don't think that Adam Silver is not equipped to save this. But it's getting to the point that I don't know that there is another human being that is capable of fixing this. This league is so far gone. And every time I try to put aside load management or tanking or the officiating or the foul baiting or all of this kind of stuff, anytime, like last night, I legitimately tried. I promise you, I tried to just, for once, not crap on what I saw and just be like, you know what? Good for Bam Adebayo. What an amazing performance. I really tried. And I ended up in the same place. It is just, what happened last night was ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. And for an organization that, preaches heat culture, right? Everything that's supposed to be right with the basketball organization, for them to make a mockery of the NBA, I mean, I'll be honest, it's one of the last teams that I thought would do it. Heat culture, they got all that crap written on the court. Self-important organization, the Miami Heat are. For them to be a party to this, that's bad. 719-24-7, 1313. Organizations behaving badly, the topic du jour, with the Baltimore Ravens backing out on the Crosby deal only to sign Hendrickson, and now the Miami Heat turning, a great night for Bam Adebayo into an absolute sham and a farce. 719-24-7, 1313. Coming up next, and then we get to play everyone's favorite game. We play it on occasion here on this show. It's called What is Goaltender Interference? It's next here on Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Thanks for watching the show on our social media platforms, which even if I'm not on KVOR, which I am not today because Air Force basketball is on. When I left the room, it was 13-0 Nevada. So that's not going great for the Falcons in the first round of their Mountain West tournament. But you could still watch this show if you're a fan of KVOR on our social media platforms at 740 KVOR, Facebook, and of course, Extra Sports 1300 on a bevy of social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. While you're there, make sure you drop a comment. This is an interactive experience. So if you're just joining me, here's how the show has gone today. I think the Air Force women, even with the loss last night, I think that is an overall positive story. But the fact of the matter is they lost last night, right? So not great. And then the Ravens are being a little slimy here with this whole Max Crosby to Trey Hendrickson pivot. And then it's the Miami Heat making a farce out of the NBA by trying to get Bam Adebayo to surpass Kobe Bryant's 81 points. And now we go to one of the things, and I have to say, I know not everyone is into hockey. I'm just telling you, of the leagues right now, they got about the least amount wrong with them. They have things wrong with them, don't get me wrong. But, well, especially compared to the other league that is playing right now, the NHL is, you got none of that drama. But there is something that plagues the NHL. And I think it is a problem. I don't think they know what goaltender interference is. This is the hockey version of a catch. Right? We had the debate after the Bills-Broncos game. What is a catch? What is an interception? Surviving the ground. One of the dumbest phrases in all of sports. We don't know what it. We still don't know fully what a catch is. But the NHL goaltender interference, they don't know what it is. Late in the second period last night, Nathan MacKinnon, and I'll say this, it was the worst collision I've ever seen between a hockey player and a goalie. It was brutal. And I hope Connor Ingram is okay. Okay, but it's one of my biggest pet peeves with officials. Are you ruling on the result or the action? Because you're supposed to be ruling on the action. And it felt like when they called goaltender interference, and it's not even just that it's goaltender interference, it's the fact that they kicked Nathan MacKinnon out of the game for it. That's really the issue here. They kicked him out of the game for that. It was terrible, that collision. Did Nathan MacKinnon do anything to cause that collision that warrants him being ejected? Don't look at Connor Ingram getting trucked by Nathan MacKinnon. Look at what happened before that and tell me if it meets the requirements to be a 5-minute major and a game misconduct for a major goaltender interference. I'll let Jared Bednar tell you why it does not.
Yeah, first thing I looked at, for me, I look at the overhead. He makes the play on the puck, and I got his toes cutting up ice probably through the top of the paint, and Ingram's on the goal line. I don't think there's a chance. There's no chance that he hits the goalie if Nurse doesn't run into him. He's not hitting the goalie. So to me, I look at that, and it's like I check the overhead first. He's going to go where his toes are pointed.
Darnell Nurse, I don't think intentionally, but he did it. His head kind of goes into the hip of Nathan MacKinnon as he's trying to catch him. And he knocks Nathan MacKinnon off of the line that Jared Bednar is saying Nathan MacKinnon was on. And the only place for MacKinnon to go is through Connor Ingram. Without that head to hip from Darnell Nurse, I am with Jared Bednar. Nathan MacKinnon dodges Ingram. And you could say, well, you know, he was walking a fine line. I will say that. He was walking a fine line, but how many times have you seen a guy go right up to the goalie and kind of jump away from him? Nathan MacKinnon was going to miss Connor Ingram. It was an Oilers player that knocked Nathan MacKinnon into Connor Ingram. So how is that worthy of an ejection for Nathan MacKinnon? And it's a rhetorical question because the answer is it's not. And Jared Bednar and I are of like mind. Jared Bednar agrees with me. This whole idea that it sure seemed like the referees ruled on the result, and not the action itself.
Like, I'm looking at that right away. I don't care if he's injured, not injured. It's a severe crash, not a severe crash. It's not a penalty. If you put guys in your own goalie, it's not a penalty. That's the way I see it. No. Well, not a good one. Yeah. The goalie's hurt, so it's 5. Again, I really don't give a crap if the goalie's hurt. That's on their D-man, not on our guy.
Jared Bednar has had it. And this is from the last time. I thought the last time the Avs got called for goaltender interference, or maybe it was the opposing team wasn't called for goaltender interference. I thought Jared Bednar had it then. Now he's really had it. And understand what he's saying. It's not that he doesn't have empathy for Connor Ingram, but he's saying what I just said. It doesn't matter if Ingram gets hurt. You have to rule on the action that happens. And Darnell Nurse was responsible for getting Connor Ingram trucked. Those are just facts. So for Nathan MacKinnon to be ejected in a game against a very good Edmonton team, a premier game in the NHL that night, 2 top scorers in the league, all of that kind of stuff, for the game to essentially be decided on that call, that's bad. It's bad on those officials. It's bad on Toronto in the review process. It's bad on the NHL. And I think you would not be wrong in saying it cost the Avalanche that game. It was the wrong call. Absolutely the wrong call. But as I'm saying that, maybe I don't know if it was the right call or not. You know what? Let me back up. It may actually be the right call. I don't think it is, but it might be. But the point is, no one knows what constitutes goaltender interference? Nobody knows. So maybe it was the right call. It didn't look like it was the right call, but I don't think the NHL knows what goaltender interference is, what constitutes it, what leads to it. I think the referees just saw Nathan MacKinnon hit the goalie. It looked really bad, and they had a knee-jerk reaction, and it cost the Avalanche a hockey game last night. What am I trying to hit? They got it wrong. That is not goaltender interference. By what goaltender interference should be. Go back to the Bills-Broncos game. What a catch should be is not what the rule is on the books. And that's why the Broncos got an interception on that play and the Bills didn't get a catch. Because what a catch should be is not what's on the rule book. So maybe the NHL did rule correctly. Then the rule is wrong because that's not goaltender interference. Call it on Darnell Nurse. Kick Darnell Nurse out of the game. Right? You want to make someone pay for Connor Ingram getting trucked. Kick Darnell Nurse out of the game. It was his fault. What goaltender interference should be, that should not be goaltender interference. But this word salad that exists in so many leagues' rule book, I don't know. Maybe they did make the right call. But then the rule is wrong. Because if you get pushed into, and I as I'm talking, I kind of feel like this has happened multiple times where Avs players have been pushed into opposing goalies, and that's drawn the ire of Jared Bednar. That should not be a penalty. The player has the right to go right up to the crease and try and score a goal. If you push him further, that's not on that player. Player doesn't want to be in the crease. He's trying to be outside the crease. Maybe the call was right, but the rule is wrong. And it cost the Avalanche a game last night. Thankfully, if you're an Avs fan, they got the wins over the last few days they needed to get. They got the results. So Edmonton, obviously a showcase game. Who knows? Maybe it's Edmonton and Colorado at some point in the playoffs. There's certainly some consequence, and that could go along with it. But I don't know what you can do now because you took a very competitive game played by two of the better teams in the Western Conference, and you completely swung it in one team's favor. I can't take that result seriously. Is Edmonton somehow better than the Avs now? Okay, well, if Nathan MacKinnon gets kicked out of a game, you know what? I bet Edmonton wins that game in the postseason. But I can't look at that last night and go, oh, maybe Edmonton might be a little tricky for the Avs. Nathan MacKinnon was wrongly kicked out of the game. And the Avs got the two more important wins over the last few days by beating Dallas and the Wild. It is a shootout, so I guess I should say drew them. Got the results, got the points, whatever you want to say. I don't think there was as much angst around the Avs losing that game last night as opposed to, let's just say, if the Denver Nuggets happen to lose tonight to Houston. Want to get into that coming up next here on Extra Sports 1300. Just checking the old NFL news wire. Broncos still not bringing in anybody from the outside, which is bold choice cotton. In the time of the year where teams are looking to get better, the Broncos are looking to be the same. Now, I'm not going to say that the Broncos are worse after the start of free agency. They're not. They'll deal with, they're betting. I think they made the right bet with Malcolm Roach over John Franklin Myers. I think Malcolm Roach can do very close to what John Franklin Myers did last year for the Denver Broncos. There's so much talent around. You can't say, even though I would have given it another shot with Dre Greenlaw, you can't say because of the impact Dre Greenlaw made last year that the Broncos are worse than they were a year ago without Dre Greenlaw, and PJ Locke kind of the same as Locke ends up signing with the Cowboys. So, same, but I believe someone once said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. I think that was Josh Kroenke, owner of the Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets, that once said that. But all these free agent deals, including the Broncos moves, have been made official. Lucas Kroll is the last one. Remember when Sean Payton tried to gaslight everyone into thinking Lucas Kroll was going to be some kind of secret weapon for this Broncos team? Well, Lucas Kroll is back. They're not getting worse. But in a way, aren't they? Because they're not getting better. Kyler Murray now free agent, so keep an eye on that and see if he does indeed end up in Minnesota. I think that would be the best idea for him if he wants any shot of reclaiming his career. I don't think Pittsburgh would be a bad place for him to end up. I just think there's a better place, and there's a more surefire place for him to go to if he's serious about resurrecting his career, and it's Minnesota. Since, San Francisco is not currently hiring, or LA for that matter, the Rams. Minnesota will be a good place to go. So we'll see. Check that after we talk about this, which is my new doomsday scenario regarding the Denver Nuggets. And I talked about this yesterday. If you missed it, I do not believe that the Denver Nuggets will beat the Oklahoma City Thunder this year in the NBA playoffs. I just want to get you ready for it now. This team is not beating that team in a 7-game series. It's not happening. But if that comes to fruition, I think there will be a level of understanding that, okay, the Nuggets really tried something here. They tried to get the depth that they needed. It just didn't work out. And you got to try again. You got to figure out the right combination. I think as much as this is it feels like a championship or bust year, I think there's one exception, and it's losing to OKC again. I really do. I think a lot of Nuggets fans will be like disappointed for sure, but say, all right, it just didn't pan out. Now you got to try again. Now you got to figure some other things out, tweak some things, and go at Oklahoma City again. Where the F word will come into play, failure, what will send Nuggets Nation into mass panic is if the Denver Nuggets fall before they get to OKC. And the next two nights are two of the teams that you would put into that category that may be able to beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series. Houston tonight, San Antonio tomorrow. Now, the scheduling is quite unfortunate for the Nuggets. It has to be said. Because they have a very quick turnaround. Late game tonight, early game tomorrow in San Antonio. So that game tomorrow night is what we call in the business a scheduled loss. So they better win tonight. I think that's what it is for the Denver Nuggets. You better win tonight. Not saying they can't win tomorrow, but the expectation is they're not going to. I mean, already you got people on, around the Nuggets or on the Nuggets beat already talking about how unfair the travel is. Not saying the Nuggets are making that, although David Adelman might make a little comment. I've heard him make a comment in his post-game press conference before. Hey, we got to hurry this up because we got to get to San Antonio. I don't love that, by the way. Like, it's not Steve Kerr talking about shaving 10 games off the schedule, but it falls under, we can talk about that, you can't. And Michael Malone used to do this. Complaining about the unfair schedule that your team, nobody wants to hear it coming from the team. Now, I haven't seen anything from the Nuggets on this. I've just seen people that are on around the Nuggets laying the groundwork for, hey, if tomorrow night in San Antonio goes really poorly, here's the reason why. It's just something you don't want to hear from the team itself because that's a defeatist attitude. Same thing with Steve Kerr. Everyone says that the NBA should play fewer games. What Steve Kerr said the other day about taking 10 games off the schedule, most NBA fans agree. This season is too long. Too many teams are load managing. We can say that. Steve Kerr can't because it comes off as whining. Fans, media members, we're allowed to whine. You can't if you're the team. I saw the comments and everyone was getting on Steve Kerr, and it's just you can't say those things. You can't talk about how unfair the world is to you. It's just going to fall on deaf ears. What you're saying might be true, can't say it. So I would hope that David Adelman does not take a little jab at the NBA and say, hey, we got to get on a plane, we got to hurry up, or tomorrow night, even worse, saying we had no chance to win this game because of our unfair travel schedule. But that doesn't mean it's a fair travel schedule, right? I mean, any night of a second game of a back-to-back would be looked at as perhaps a scheduled loss, depending on the opponent. But it just, to back it up, tonight, you win tonight, you'll have some grace tomorrow. I think that's the way you look at it if you're a Nuggets fan. If the Nuggets beat the Rockets tonight, doesn't make up for what happened on Monday in OKC. Doesn't make up for it. The realization that they are not beating the Thunder in a 7-game series in the playoffs. That's a tough pill to swallow. Okay, but now the next thing is the Nuggets have to get there. They at least have to get there and try it. Because who knows, maybe Shea is kicked out of the game for taking out Jamal Murray or something like that. Like you got to at least get there And we know what transpired last year in that 7-game series when it comes to player availability and how that might have really impacted the way that series went. My assertion is, short of not having Shea, the Thunder are winning a 7-game series because they were missing a lot of guys the other night. The Nuggets were, for the first time maybe all season, were the healthier team in a matchup, and they still lost. So unless Shea is the guy that's ultimately injured in the playoff series, Nuggets aren't beating the Thunder. But you got to get there. Nobody's rooting for Shea to get hurt. I'm just saying you get there and you see, because things happen. You got to take your shot. If the Nuggets get bounced before that, then it's going to be really bad. And this Rockets team and the Spurs team they'll play tomorrow seem like, along with Minnesota, some of the candidates that have a chance to beat the Denver Nuggets. And I'm not there yet. And I said, along with my doomsday prediction of the Nuggets not being able to beat the Thunder in the playoffs, I do still think in a world where something happens to OKC, Denver's the next team up. But if they get bounced by San Antonio or Houston, that would be really bad. And you got San Antonio on the second game of a back-to-back, very short turnaround. You want that built-in excuse. You want to have people feel sorry for you or give you some grace, cut down on the criticism a little bit. If Wemby absolutely destroys you tomorrow night, then win tonight. Because if you lose tonight, then guess what? All of that stuff is out the window. No one's going to want to hear about it. And you got to go into San Antonio and you got to beat Wemby and company. So first game after the OKC loss, you got San Antonio lurking. You got to beat Houston. And I will say that I think Houston is, I think they're coming apart a little bit at the seams here. I don't know if I can pin it all on Kevin Durant's burner, but or probably just more the whole Kevin Durant experience, because we've been treated to this show when he's been in a lot of different cities. But the Rockets seem like they're fraying a little bit. So take advantage, bounce back, put OKC in the rearview mirror as much as you can, and then just do your level best against San Antonio tomorrow night. You can hear the Rockets and Nuggets tonight on Extra Sports 1300. 719-24-7-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Want to ask you something, guys. You tired of being tired? You hit the gym and your body immediately taps out. Do you try to focus, but your brain is just spinning like a loading screen? That might be low testosterone. And Low T Center knows exactly how to fix it. They've treated over 500,000 men since 2009. They are the original TRT clinic, the real deal. They don't use bargain bin mystery testosterone. It's pharmaceutical grade testosterone customized to your actual numbers. Plus, they will work with most insurance so you can stop choosing between feeling good and affording groceries. And right now, you get a free men's T test, discounted peptides and GLP 1s, and the most trusted team in TRT. So stop letting I'm exhausted be your entire brand. Go to lowtcenter.com. That's lowtcenter.com. Ray just popped in. Ray's producing Air Force men's basketball. If you want an update, it's not going well. But you could tune into KVOR. That game is ongoing. But you just popped in and said that the Broncos have not released Dre Greenlaw. Now, along with all of these free agent deals becoming finalized, you also, on the other side of the coin, have a lot of guys getting released, right? Because you have to be under the cap. Can't be over the cap. Cleveland, Dallas are two teams that immediately come to mind. They are very over the cap, and they have to make some maneuvers. Broncos aren't that team because they haven't signed anybody. Not from the outside world, anyway. So does this mean that stories of Dre Greenlaw's time in Denver coming to an end were overblown? No. But if you have cap space, you can hang on to a guy a little bit longer. I think the Broncos are trying. I would guess that the Broncos are trying to see if somebody will trade for Dre Greenlaw. Now, how realistic is it that anybody is going to trade for Dre Greenlaw? Probably quite unrealistic. But if you have the cap space, if you're cap compliant, and there's nothing saying that you have to release Dre Greenlaw right this second, why not hang on to him? Maybe someone strikes out in free agency and says, you know what, we want to take a swing. We'll give you a 6. We'll give you a 7. We'll do a pick swap to get Dre Greenlaw in our building. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would believe that is the impetus behind why the Broncos haven't officially released Dre Greenlaw. Kyler Murray is at the Vikings facility right now taking a physical, which would be a formality about 24 hours ago. It is no longer a formality. I am not going to sit here and say that Kyler Murray to Minnesota is done until it's actually done. And even then, I'm going to give it another 24 hours. This Max Crosby situation with Baltimore has, I think everybody needs to take a beat here. You can talk about, in theory, what a guy would do for a team. You could talk about the interest level that a team has in a particular player and whether you like that level of interest or not. But the idea that, hey, he's getting a physical, this isn't dotting an I and crossing a T here. Who knows what the Minnesota Vikings will find, allegedly, to decide not ultimately to sign Kyler Murray. So I'm just saying, take a beat, and then even if the news comes down that Kyler Murray is a Viking, take another 24 hours. Just see. This text coming in from Scott and Florissant. Max Crosby's career in Baltimore got kneecapped. I did ask the question, how will we remember Max Crosby as a Baltimore Raven? It stinks. What the Ravens did here, it reeks. Okay? But they will have zero repercussions. Zero. It will work out just fine. In fact, maybe better. Maybe better because they keep their 2 draft picks. Trey Hendrickson has dealt with his own injuries, so maybe that's a little bit of a push. But they paid Hendrickson less money than they would have to pay Crosby. They get their 2 picks back. This is going to work out even better for Baltimore. Is it just cold feet? Like, I am genuinely curious as to what the actual reason is. Is it just that the Ravens went, you know what? We actually don't want to do this. Think about the number of hours Eric DaCosta and just front office executives around the league spend mulling. I mean, he probably mulled a Max Crosby trade during the season. I mean, he's probably been thinking about making this kind of a move for months. I mean, Travis Kelce said on his podcast that he knew he was coming back this year midway through last season. All these guys, they have all the time in the world. You think about the amount of time you and I discuss, these dream scenarios and Team X adding this player or that player. We just did it with the Broncos adding Kenneth Walker, Romeo Doubs, or A.J. Brown. That's all. That's what Eric DaCosta's job is. So I called it cold feet, and that's what a lot of people are saying. I think there's got to be some kind of catalyst. And I don't think it was what was in the physical. I don't. Would it have been Trey Hendrickson being lukewarm on the idea of going to Baltimore? And then at the 11th hour, or after the deal was done with Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson's people reached out to the Ravens and said, hey, we would have gone to Baltimore if you would have asked us to again. There's got to be something else. It can't just be Eric DaCosta woke up in a cold sweat one night and said, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this trade. This is a bad trade. I can't do this. I just refuse to believe that's the reason. You can label it cold feet, but that's an umbrella term here. There's got to be something that caused the Ravens to have cold feet, and I don't believe it was anything that came to light in the physical. Everyone knew that Max Crosby wasn't going to be healthy till the summertime. Ooh, you know what it was? Maybe it was he was predisposed. Was Max Crosby predisposed to a knee injury? Maybe that's what it was. Like Bo Nix was predisposed to an ankle injury. Never forget. Sean Payton said that with his face. In his words, he was not misquoted. He said Bo Nix was predisposed. And now what do the Raiders do? Like, from a financial standpoint, the Raiders are fine. Like, they could resorb Max Crosby and be cap compliant, but they went out and signed Kwity Paye. They signed Kwity Paye to essentially take the roster spot from Max Crosby. And maybe the question isn't what do the Raiders do now? What does Kwity Paye do now? I mean, money's money. He probably begrudgingly accepted the deal. I haven't seen whether his deal became official, but he was being offered a good amount of money and to be the best pass rusher on the Raiders, and now Max Crosby's back. What's that thing where I just became the most important person at work? How about I thought I wanted to become the most important person at work? I thought I was going to become the most important person at work, and then somebody came back and is above me now. I mean, that had to be part of the sales pitch. Like, hey, we need a pass rusher. Kwity Paye, you're our guy. Do the Raiders try to trade him again? Because I'm operating with the premise that the Ravens just made up the physical thing. Like, that's just what I believe. Does another team, because man, they're going to get, especially compared to 2 first-round picks, they're going to get fleeced. I don't think that the Raiders try and trade him again, because if I'm another team, whether it's Dallas or Chicago or whatever it might be, I'm like, how about a 6th-round pick swap? I am not in the mood to, give the Raiders what they lost in the Ravens deal. So I think it's going to be very difficult for the Raiders to move Max Crosby if they still have the will to do so. But I think what Crosby will become is the number one trade target at the deadline. And also awkward. Thank goodness Max Crosby has his own podcast so we can find out what's going on in his head. A little awkward. Although I'm sure Max Crosby, I mean, didn't he talk about how excited he was to go? I don't know. He might be happy to be back in Vegas. A wild NFL free agency period. And the Ravens, despite the deal falling through or them pulling out of the deal, still probably made the most significant addition. It's got to be a group with Kenneth Walker to Kansas City, Trey Hendrickson to the Ravens. I mean, would those be? I mean, I think Kyler Murray to Minnesota would be very intriguing. I don't think it would be the most significant. It'd be a significant addition because I don't think if they can get Kyler Murray right, I think they got a chance. I think the window is open in that NFC North for Minnesota to flip that division in their favor. But the Ravens still might have the most significant addition of any team in this free agency period. Don't let anyone tell you good things happen to good people. The universe is random, and people who do underhanded, slimy things sometimes get away with it and are better off for it. And that's certainly the Baltimore Ravens. One more word here from the fine folks at Low T Center. You know, there are two types of guys, really. The ones who have 22-year-old energy and the ones who remember having 22-year-old energy. If you're in the latter category, it might be your testosterone that is causing you to be in that category. Enter Low T Center. Their board-certified providers actually specialize in hormone health. It's not just something that they just throw into the mix so they can get a few more customers. This is what they do. They know what to test, what to look for, and they only use pharmaceutical-grade testosterone, not that questionable stuff some places hand out. And here's a big win. Right now, you could get a free men's T-test, no risk, no commitment, plus select peptides and GLP-1s are $50 off, whether you're looking for better sleep, recovery, weight loss, or simply more energy. So stop blaming stress, altitude, the weather, your dog, whatever it might be, or failed Crosby physical. Hit lowtcenter.com and get things back on track. That's lowtcenter.com. A little championship week coverage for you from the Patriot League coming up next here on Extra Sports 1300.